Hi guys, it's Stribbers, and welcome to episode 37 of PGR2 Road to Platinum. So we are just under halfway in the Extreme Series, and we've got 4 more events to do today, as we normally do. We've got a hot lap and 3 street races, so it'll take a little bit longer to get those street races done. They're probably the longest events we have, and for the hot lap I'm going to use the F50. I always use this in the hot laps and timed runs, so I'm going to continue that theme today. Just over 1 minute 3 for Platinum. And we are in Washington for this one, in the dark, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to see what you're doing around the corners. But we start off with these hard to navigate corners. It's very easy to hit the barrier on that little section there. So it's maybe worth going a little bit slower through there, just easing off a little bit. And in this section as well, it's easy to hit that right hand barrier when you're coming through there. Stick nice and close to the apex there and use the width coming out. Make sure you really maximise that. And you can take this corner fairly fast actually, faster than you think. Again, making sure to stick as close as you can to the apex, bearing in mind not to hit that barrier. Coming around that right hand corner quite nicely, and this corner as well. Now you can stick fairly to the middle of the road for this bit, to then swing out here, then come all the way to the left again, to swing back in, and again to the right, sticking close to this apex on the left, so you can whip the car back to the right through the slalom section. And I stuck a little bit too close to the inside of that corner there, could have gone wider then cut back in, but we crossed the line in good time, and we're able to do it. Half a second as well, so that's okay, fairly comfortable. Half a second on one lap, on a hot lap, isn't too bad. So then we jump into the first out of 3 street races, which we're going to go back to the F40 for. You know, they have their strengths, both these cars, so it's good to mix it up sometimes. Although going from the F50 to the F40 can be a little bit challenging, instead of going from the F40 to the F50, just because of how hard the F40 is to control. But we start off on a straight, so we can make the use of the F40 speed. Coming around the first corner, it's all getting a bit hectic, as it normally does. We're able to fly past majority of them, getting the better of that Porsche 959 there on the straight. And he actually gives us a little bit of a helping hand there, just nudges us past everyone. Managed to hold it as well, or hold it should I say, so I don't spin out. And we've just got this F40 to catch up now. They are quite annoying, the AI driving the F40. They do drive it very quickly, so it is hard to catch up sometimes, and it always seems to be in front and pulling away, so it's the more difficult one to catch up. I'd say they drive the F40 better than the F50, as it always seems to be the car in the lead. But on that section there, you can actually, as you've just seen, go much more to the inside of the corner there, really minimising that distance. And the AI go all the way to the outside, so it enables us to go a lot quicker than them through there. Completely screw up that corner, brake far too late and power slide nearly into the barrier. Well, it was into the barrier, but I didn't get a penalty for it, so that was good. But we're still managing to stay ahead of that of the F40, even though I did make that little mistake there. Just make the use of the width of the track there. And we hurtle down this straight. This is where the F40 really comes into its strengths. Doing a little bit of a drift around there, keeping to the inside of the apex, which is quite nice actually. Enables us to keep our angle and speed onto the straight. And there, we've got a massive bout of understeer, which is quite hard to correct without just sort of power sliding out of it. So that meant that we did hit the barrier on the that corner before the finish line, and again not taking that corner very well. I'm not having the best of races so far. I tend to, when I get in the lead, I tend to lose concentration a little bit, as I'm a bit wary of cars behind and that sort of thing, whereas if I'm in second or something chasing down the first car, I tend to drive a lot better. So I don't know whether that's sort of a mental thing or what, but I always seem to make mistakes in first place. Maybe still trying to drive a bit too quick, I'm not sure. But there, do that nicely again, sticking to the inside, using the width there. Let's see if we can do this corner a little bit better this time. Braking, much better that time. Then cutting back into the apex there, so that's That's a nice corner there, much better than that second lap. Coming across the line for the final lap. We've got a nice lead built up on this F40 now, nearly 2.5 seconds, so it's going well. And that corner's a lot better that time as well. So you learn your lessons in these sorts of tracks. You can, if you brake far too late on one corner, then you can come back the next lap and brake earlier, obviously. But you got to look for the signs. As you see, well, that was terrible as well. You can see the distance markers above this corner, and some corners don't have them, but some do, and it is quite handy to see your reference of where you brake. If we can see here, for example, that I brake just before the 50 mark. So there is some reference, and obviously the different cars you use, they'll have different brakes, different braking zones, you'll be going different speeds, and again, I just completely mess up that corner there. I was probably daydreaming about crossing the line and smack into the corner, but it doesn't matter anyway. We lost our clean race way before that, and the F40 was miles behind us. So we do that as the bonnet just lifts up there, which would completely block your view. But luckily, we're in the realms of driving in third person, so that wouldn't matter for us. But that's that street race down. Moving on to the second street race. Deciding to use the F40 again for this one. Again, mixing between the F50 and the F40 where possible. Washington again for this one. Only 2 laps though, so it's fairly short, this one. Starting on a straight before a hairpin, which usually creates chaos. So what I like to do here is stay out wide, let them all ram into each other, and then try and cut on the inside of everyone to get out of the way of getting caught up with everyone, because it does get a little bit annoying. But we've got the GT2, then the Ascari, and then the F40 in front. GT2 goes miles wide there, allowing us to pass on the inside, and the Ascari goes wide on there, allowing us to pass on the inside of him. Gives us a little bit of a nudge, forcing us round, nearly spinning out, but managing to just about hold it. And we've got the F40 again to track down. Always the car in front in this Extreme Series. 9 times out of 10, even if the F50 is in the race, the F40 is ahead, so the AI do drive it pretty well. And coming up to this section, which I actually hit the barrier there, already lost the clean race. We know by now I don't get many of those, always making mistakes. But coming across the line for the second lap, just under a second behind this F40 now, so we've really got to try and reel him in before we run out of road. Or run out of track. And braking round here, trying to use the width as much as possible, and the same round here. Kicking the end out a little bit, having to correct it. Gained about a 10th on him round there. He goes quite wide through there and a bit smoother through there, so I'm slightly gaining on him. Looking like a 10th per corner at this rate. Sticking a bit too close to the inside there, but I was able to use the width on the way out, and we now are just a car length behind him. And now bashing him up the rear there, able to overtake him just about. Again, getting a massive bit of understeer, hitting the barrier there. And he's coming back for another move on us, but it's not going to happen. Able to stay in the lead around there and crossing the line just after this straight. And there we go. Another platinum medal down. Nice to beat the F40 again. Fastest lap as well, which I'd hope, as I was gaining on him every lap. So that's good. 6,500 kudos. And we move on to the final event of this episode, which is another street race. We're going to use the F50 on this one, just because of this track. It's a very technical track, this one. So we're going in the cherry red colour there. 2 laps, 8 cars, and this is actually the race that we did in the Grand Touring Series with the Ferrari 575. And we knew how hard it was to catch up the 575 that got away, so it's probably going to be a repeat episode of that. So we're able to get around a few cars on the first corner, a lot of them going wide there. I don't really know what that's about, letting the rest of the cars go through there. So we're up to 4th already, and luckily the Jag completely takes out the Ascari and himself, which allows us just to go on the inside. Which is a tip actually, it's sometimes better to let the the opponents fight it out in other positions, and they usually take each other out like that because they are quite aggressive, so it lets us pass up the inside of them very nicely. But we've got to chase down this F40 now in the lead. And it's quite a long track, this one, but the AI do drive very well on this, so you've really got to drive as best you can, which is why I chose the F50, because it is easier to drive, and with as many corners as this, it's just the one to go for, really. So he is 1.7 seconds ahead, so we've really got to try and catch up as best we can. Doing a little bit of a flick round there, always a difficult corner to do that one. Coming around this sweeping right hand corner into this strange corner, which is hard to take. It's hard to stick to the very inside of that apex, but it is the quickest way to do it. It's almost best to go into a slide, actually, and try and slide your way around and then exit the corner at the right point. Not really getting much time on in here, though, as we come around the final part of the track. Let's go into the second lap. Just having a little look behind, see if anyone is here, but we're still alright in second. Hitting the barrier there, not losing the clean race, but slowing us down a little bit, so he is 1.2 seconds ahead, and the car behind us is actually less than a second now. So we just need to find that opportunity to catch him up. They usually make a mistake around some corners, or they take some corners very slow, so we've got to find out which corners they are to really try and catch him up. Trying to get into his draft zone as well, just need that little bit of luck, and there it is, there's the corner he takes very slowly. So we're able just about to get round him on that corner, which is good. So now we've just got to try and defend this as best we can, because they still can come back, because they take some of these corners very well. As you saw, I wasn't catching at all on the first lap on some of these. And the other car is right behind him. I think it might be the F50. I'm not quite sure which car's in third. But this is where I usually lose my concentration, and we did go on two wheels there, which means we go straight into the barrier, and there's the clean race gone. A lot longer through the lap, actually, before I lost that. Could have got away with nearly getting a clean race there. Taking that corner quite nicely, although getting a lot of oversteer there, having to correct that. Coming around this right-hander again, into this sweeping left corner, and hitting the barrier there. I tried to go into a slide, but it wasn't having any of it. Around this right-hander again. As we see, he is right behind us now, and he got the better exit on that corner. I can see his lights coming right inside, and he is going for that move. It was an absolute nightmare. I thought, that's it, it's the race gone, because we've only got one corner left. But I managed to get into his draft zone, not really slingshot because the F40 is quicker, but outbrake him, just use him as the corner a little bit on the final turn to retake the lead and go across the line. So that's not an easy race at all. That is difficult, but we managed to just about squeeze past the F40 in the end. And it was actually the Jag that was behind us in that one, not the or behind the F40, not the F50. And that's going to do it for this episode, guys. So in the next episode, we've got a speed camera, a one-on-one, and 2 street races to do. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you did, please like the video and consider subscribing if you're new for more content, and I'll see you in the next episode.